Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're just letting everybody trickle in, and we will get started momentarily. Thanks. Okay, good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar, Smarter Service, Safer Contracts, Transforming State Procurement with Dual AI Agents, where we will take a deep dive into Massachusetts' Gold Cronin Award-winning project. We're glad you're here. Thank you for spending time with us today. This is the second webinar in this year's Cronin Webinar Series. You can view the schedule and register by visiting naspo.org and clicking on the Events and Webinars tab. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to explain the format of today's webinar. All attendees are muted. You can enter comments and questions in the chat box. If you'd like to ask our presenter a question, you can type it into the Q&A box at the bottom of your window. Questions may be addressed during the presentation or during a Q&A session after the presentation. Your feedback is very valuable to us at NASPO. At the close of today's presentation, you will be asked to complete a very brief questionnaire. Today's presentation is good for one contact hour. To get your certificate, simply complete the questionnaire following the presentation. I'm very pleased to introduce our speakers today. We are honored to have with us David Fields. David is a professor of practice and senior fellow with the Burns Center for Social Change at Northeastern University. At the Burns Center, David works with students to use artificial intelligence and human-centered design to deliver cutting-edge projects that solve public sector problems. Alongside David, we have Jennifer Lyons, Deputy General Counsel at the Operational Services Division in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. She serves as the lead negotiator on the Commonwealth's IT contracts and has led agency AI initiatives, advancing responsible and innovative public sector technology procurement. NASPO is excited to have you here with us. Now, David, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to just share my screen here and we can get up and running. Okay, I'm hoping everybody can see that okay. So I work with a group called Innovate US. Many of you may be members as part of the large state gathering that we have and large membership. And what this is it provides skills training and all sorts of coursework and workshops for public sector professionals, really designed to help government serve the residents of the nation in a more effective and efficient way. And we're looking at more than 40 different partners at the state, local level. We've got native tribes, we've got large municipalities, and the skills training is really broad, and we're really excited to be able to share some of this and build some of this with NASPO. So just kind of looking through some of the courses that we have, we actually just recently built one on procurement called AI for Public Sector Procurement in partnership with NASPO. And we are excited. There's a whole litany of different opportunities there if you look in terms of how AI is being used to help support procurement at the state level. So if you have an opportunity, I encourage you to take a look. All of this is free and available to folks. And it's at your own pace, so there's no time constraint on it. The programs are available for you to take a look at. There's everything from skills development to design to really how to put these pieces of the puzzle into practice. The program that I'm excited to just kind of talk with you about today is the AI for Impact program. And this is an offshoot where we work with partners like Jen and her team and other state agencies. We've worked with a number of different cabinet secretaries from transportation to health and human services. But procurement, as you all know, is a huge, huge part of the business of running the state. And so as we look at the challenges that different states are facing, we're really looking at how we can build tools that can help transform the way that states work with the the residents and those trying to conduct business with the state. And we involve students in a full-time capacity. We hire them, they work full-time, and they go through a process from problem definition through design work to building MVPs to user testing to ultimately handing off a fully functional enterprise-ready tool that is able to help move forward the initiatives of the state. And so in this example, we were really excited. We've been working with Jen and her team now for over a year, building two different tools that work in conjunction with each other. And we'll get into those a little bit today. We've done projects in the procurement space now for some time, and we've been learning as we go, as the tools themselves evolve, as the students become more nuanced. The reason why this program works really well is that we're able to hire the students on, we train them. We've got the engineering team on our end to be able to technologically backstop some of these projects. And we're really able to do this at a much, much lower cost than the private sector. And it builds internal capacity within the state. Many of these students go on to work for the state. We know that there's a great need there for people to come into the public sector, as well as we'll talk about, time savings and cost savings. A couple other tools I was just going to highlight here to kind of show the breadth of the work. We built a tool in collaboration with a group called Innovate Public Schools that will ingest an IEP for a student in the public sector, really help families translate that, be able to summarize it, create key themes, help students out. We built another tool for the administration and finance team, which is what the operational service division sits under, helping municipalities be able to identify and apply for federal grant money. And so we're really excited about the tools that we've been able to build in this collaboration between the university and our public sector partners who are working in state government, especially as it relates to procurement and being able to help drive forward the way that the state does business has been exceptionally innovative and really impactful. So I'll pause there and just kind of stop sharing, and then I can turn it back to you all.
Great. Thank you, David. We're excited to share what the projects are. I think a lot of people know that the two procurement agents we built with the AI for Impact program at Northeastern. So I will, thank you. So our initiative we titled Smarter Service, Safer Contracts, the aim being to transform state procurement with dual AI agents. So proceed, slide please. So just to begin out with, because I think a lot of people on this call maybe don't have the same setup as Massachusetts, but just to give you a little bit of a background on what Massachusetts Procurement Office is. So there is the Operational Services Division, which is the agency that I am a part of. We are the oversight agency for 64 agencies within the executive department. We oversee procurement. Obviously, this is only a small portion of what most agencies do. Every agency has their own mission critical theme, but unfortunately, it's also an area, as I'm sure most of you recognize, that is incredibly high risk of collusion. People give bids to friends. We're always on the lookout for and anything that doesn't fall in line with that fair, transparent, and competitive, streamlines that or goals that we are hoping to keep in mind. So the idea being here that, again, 64 agencies, hundreds of people, there's about 130 people in operational services. How can we scale our resources really to these agencies to enable them to make better procurement decisions and make faster procurement decisions? And so we engaged with Northeastern's, again, AI for Impact, and we started discussing a procurement chatbot, which we aptly named the ABE, or the Assisted Buyer Engine. Next slide, please. So ABE really started out very much smaller than what it became. It really started out with Operational Services puts out every year what we call our Best Value Handbook. And our Best Value Handbook is really what our legal team refers to as a layman's guide to our regulations. And in reality, even though it's meant to be a short guide, it's about a 120-page short guide. So obviously, we were, again, trying to think of just any and all resources we can besides our 4-attorney person team, trying to field questions from 64 different general counsels, or our help desk trying to, field questions procedurally from 64 different agencies. So the benefits of the chatbot really were, this instant, constant, and equitable access across procurement. So you can go on any time of the day, ask it anything, and we've been able to train it on what are some of the frequently asked questions that we get on each of our statewide contracts. There are about 120 different statewide contracts. Each of those all have contract user guides. Those are also all part of our ABE knowledge base. So again, what started out as really a deep dive into this layman's guide to the regulation really took on a broader knowledge of, in one of our early working sessions, somebody outside our agency said, well, how do I buy a pencil? And we said, well, ABE's really not set up for that. That doesn't, we don't really get into that kind of procedural detail within the regulation. And then, we thought about it a little bit more, and we thought, well, actually, why couldn't we start there? Why couldn't we have a chatbot that could really talk somebody through from something as simple to how to buy a pencil, where to find the statewide contract, how many quotes do you need? If you can't find that pencil, what do you have to do? Do you have to go through this exception process? So really talking you through that entire procurement phase, beginning to end. And that's been extremely helpful. And we did find that, ironically, that is one of the most contentious areas. Is people were having a lot of frustration with just navigating what we have right now as an Excel knowledge base, where you can go and kind of, QF your way through to see if whatever product or service you're looking for is available on statewide contract. I will also say in Massachusetts, if you are part of the executive agency, part of the executive branch, it is mandatory for you to buy out the statewide contracts if your good or service is available. So having this additional resource to be able to find if the good or service is available, and then be able, if it's not available, to then ask the bot, well, what is the next step in this process then? How do I go about and get it? So our knowledge base has everything from the traditional ticketing systems. We have the procurement rules, we have the statewide contract index, we have a trade index. We went around to all of our different contract managers and said, please give us our 10 to 15 most frequently asked questions on your different contracts so that we can train the bot to give consistent answers the way that you want them to be relayed. And then the last step is really to track those metrics and to inform the statewide contracts. Are we getting questions that asking for things that repeatedly that are not on statewide? Do we have one agency maybe that's asking a lot more questions than another? Do they need training? So we use this to really inform where we go in terms of resources and additional help with just navigating the procurement process. Next slide, please. And that kind of brings us into the second part of your procurement phase. And that's with, okay, now I have discovered whatever product or service it is that I want to procure. And now I'm at this point where I need to actually negotiate an agreement. Now, hopefully, if you were able to find it on the statewide contract, a lot of that's already been done for you, and there's not a whole lot for you to negotiate. But really, this second AI product was built really with the attorneys in my team in mind, who are doing the negotiating on the statewide contracts and setting these up for executive branches. And that's that, we get so many, again, 120 different contracts, 4-attorney person team, tons of red lines. what is a way that we can make sure that, again, we're consistent in the policies that we're setting up, consistent in the clarifications that we're putting so that there is fairness and transparency across all vendors on a contract, and that we're not leaving too much of this negotiation to general counsels and outside agencies. And what I mean by that, again, is each of these have their own agency missions and they have their own specialized area of legal knowledge. So we are trying to, again, just put together another resource that either helps us set up the contracts to make it easier for you, or helps when you get to that critical stage where you are in the place where you do actually have to negotiate a contract and this is not part of your typical legal day. What can we do? What kind of resource can we use to help you faster without without jeopardizing our own work setting up the statewide? So this is where we kind of came up with this idea of what about a contract editor? How could this work? So we enter, if you will, 1L. Next slide, please. Now, 1L was lovingly named after first-year law students, and I say that because we didn't, and I still don't at this time, envision that this AI agent is going to give me any better results than if I were to hand a first draft review to one of our law students. And we do hire law students all the time as internships. It is a common way that we would have them, say, take a 30-page agreement and say, okay, here are the IT terms and conditions. Here is the request for response. Read through these, go through and just kind of try to flag the major things for me. This does save a ton of time, assuming that, you're even getting 80% of that correct, which again, as a first year law student, this 1L, that was our goal, was really to get up to that 80-85% red line. Obviously, there is always this idea of keeping the human in the loop, or the human at the helm, as we really like to call it. So it's not cutting out your attorney review time, but it is significantly reducing your attorney review time. And what we found was that on average, an agreement that might take one attorney about 40 pages might take them 6 hours to produce one red line. If we have the tool that's able to go through and actually redline it first, we are able then to review the red line in approximately 1 hour, as opposed to 6 and creating our own red lines. So that's been a huge time save, and very proud of that. Next slide, please. So we do have just kind of a short video that shows a little bit for you about how we envision these, or how these tools actually work together throughout the full length of the procurement process.
Meet Nina, Fish and Wildlife's newest attorney. She thought she'd be saving the fish, but today the only thing swimming into her office is a giant IT contract.
I went to law school to save the environment, not to decipher Section 13.4b2 of the IT terms and conditions.
Relax, Nina. You don't have to dive into the deep end alone. I've already asked Abe, our AI procurement chatbot, if this product was on statewide contract.
And?
Nope. Abe confirmed it isn't. But in less than 2 minutes, Abe walked me through drafting the request to OSD for permission to run our own RFR.
See that? Abe doesn't just answer questions. It guides Carla step by step. No flipping through policy binders the size of a blue whale.
Now we wait for OSD's real humans to reply. OSD approval will take longer than the life cycle of a goldfish, but at least the paperwork is swimming in the right direction.
Paperwork? Fine. But this is 60 pages of IT terms. I didn't major in cloud security.
And this is where most attorneys would sink.
QOSD Legal and 1L, the AI contract editor. Don't worry, Nina. I've handled bigger fish than this.
In under 5 minutes, 1L scans the vendor agreement, cross-checks against the Commonwealth IT terms and conditions and the RFR, and spits out a red line, annotated, highlighted, and ready for review.
Wait, 1L even tells me why sections conflict? Clause by clause?
Exactly. It's like having an IT contract professor whispering in your ear.
Well then, I can actually get back to the fish. 1L saved me hours of flipping through IT specs I don't speak. Now I'm ready to negotiate and make sure the vendor's terms don't slip through the net.
So thanks to Abe and 1L, Fish and Wildlife can do what they do best: keep the fish happy without drowning in procurement paperwork.
Great. Next slide. So yes, so that is how the tool works together. So we don't actually distribute the 1L to every general counsel office within the executive. We do keep that within OSD legal. So it is true that if you were to be in another agency and you were, again, running your own RFR and got to that point, it's still a tool that allows us, instead of you coming to us and saying, hey, I've got 60 pages of a cloud term that I need help reviewing, instead of, us sitting there and trying to take a deep dive off of what is otherwise foreign territory for us, we're able to really reduce that time in half by running it through the contract editor and then being able to kind of flag those major items for other general counsel and talk them through what the negotiation steps should be. So the next thing, though, that I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about, which has been kind of an ongoing challenge, I would say, just with AI in general. And this is that idea of change management and collaboration. So we were very lucky. This initiative honestly would not have worked at all if we did not have kind of the collaboration and change management that we did throughout the life cycle of the initiative. So our parent office, which is the Massachusetts Executive Office for Administration and Finance, has an IT division that has been largely responsible for helping us with project management and oversight and maintenance of the agents. We also have our technology secretariat in Massachusetts, which has been able to ensure that both applications are complied with statewide cybersecurity, data privacy, infrastructure standards. They all live in OSD or Commonwealth rather, production environments, and they started out in our very own IT sandbox. So anything that is being fed into these models is not going out into the world afterwards. It solely remains within our own IT environments. So again, that IT sandbox that we originally started kind of playing and testing with, that was something that had been set up by our technology secretariat. And we did bring in people from not only from my legal team, but also from what we call category management, which is our contract managers and sourcing teams. And then other procurement leads from other different executive agencies, just to identify, what are those recurring questions or policy ambiguities and pain points that we can help address through automation. So this was, again, I say this is an ongoing process because we're constantly getting new pain points or just things that, we wouldn't even think of. And honestly, trying to remind people that the agents are there, so letting people know what a good prompting system might be or what are good questions to ask it, and success stories. We have kind of a SharePoint that we set up now with different success stories to encourage people to use the agents and to have trust in those agents. So next slide, please. I do think a really key feature of this, and I'm very grateful that David was able to join us today, was having that academic partnership. Having that academic partnership, again, it was very unique in the sense that it allowed us to have these code developers and students that were working with us full time. So we didn't just get them for 10 hours a week to try to build these. They really became part of the Commonwealth team. They learned procurement from beginning to end. It was very proud. Actually, one of the students that built 1L just recently went to a hackathon and built a public bid finder. So I was really proud to hear that. She's kind of continuing her public knowledge, procurement knowledge forward. But the advantage then again of these being right in full-time environment with us, we have then been able to build a pipeline of future talent too. A lot of these students have then come back after graduation to work for the Commonwealth, which has been a huge plus for us as well. And again, keeping everything just in that closed IT environment. I'm sure everybody has seen at this point, there are numerous AI agents that you can purchase now from third parties that can also do this similar type of thing. But we can tell you firsthand that negotiating, particularly when it comes to regulated data, making sure that if you are going to put any regulated data into that third-party environment, that they're able to comply with any of your Social Security contracts or any of your quarry contracts or any of those BAA agreements that you have. That list can get long and onerous for some of those third-party agents. So having our own internal tool in our own internal environments has been incredibly effective in that sense, where we don't have to worry about what we're feeding out back into the world. And again, I would say the other, the final duplicability key feature has, again, really setting up that collaboration between the technology, procurement, and administration secretariats, having all three of those come together to say that this is a resource that we value, that we are going to prioritize and move forward. Honestly, without everybody being on that same page, this is not something that we could have ever moved forward with. Next slide, please. And that pretty much wraps up actually everything that we have for you today. Again, there are different resources that you're welcome to go to. We have our combis. I'm sorry. OSD blog, etc. I also will be sending, we do have what we call an implementation playbook that has the infrastructure for 1L, as well as a large spreadsheet of the different prompts that we spent several months putting together for 1L to be trained on. So those will also be available. I think they'll probably get posted with this recording if anybody is interested in also using that to build their own internal tools. So thank you very much for stopping by today and hearing about these agents.
Okay, great. So we have a lot of questions lined up here. There's been a lot of interest, as we all know. So we have a few questions lined up, but if you'd like to ask a question, feel free to drop it into the Q&A box. The first question I have here is, I'm sorry I missed this, if I missed this, but how was 1L developed? Is it an internal program? Is it a program that others are able to access?
No, so it is an internal program. It was trained using a large language model, Claude, and we did use kind of a contract that was already live at the time and red lines that we had already done at the time, and then again put together really it's pretty elaborate spreadsheet of different prompts that we wanted the agent to flag, such as auto renews and adjacent to, or limitation of liability stricken, or no indemnification. So there were certain things that we wanted to make sure that this was identifying. So in our testing phase, we used Claude to really to train it, to make sure it understood these concepts, had all of our prompts, and went through and put all of this into our knowledge base. So, and actually I should also mention, I apologize, I didn't mention this in the beginning, 1L actually has two different knowledge bases. So there's one knowledge base that is what we call our static knowledge base, and that has, for right now it has, it now has all three terms and conditions that you can toggle between. So either the general terms, the IT terms and conditions, and then we just actually revised our IT terms and conditions about a year ago. So we call them the new IT terms and conditions. And then on the flip side of that is our dynamic knowledge base, where that is where you would upload your RFR or your BAA agreement or any other additional clarifications that you would like the tool to be looking for and redlining, in addition, kind of your standard IT terms and conditions that are in the Commonwealth terms or in the standard contract form, which for Massachusetts also has even more terms. So combining those two, it then is, so if you remember from the video, on one side, it actually has you upload the document that you're looking to review. And then on the other side, it has you upload whatever it is for the dynamic knowledge base that you're looking to review against. And then you would click at the bottom which IT terms, the new, the old, or the general terms. And then you would hit, generate redline. And at that point, depending on the length of it, could take anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes to generate the red line for your review.
Okay, and what hardware was required to host Abe and 1L?
What hardware?
Yeah, or I'm saying perhaps software is what they mean, but just reading the question here, I think they might mean software. So I guess what resources did you were required to host Abe and 1L?
So Massachusetts has AWS. So these were all used on AWS accounts, so cloud accounts. And then, like I said, we did use Claude as the large language model. And then throughout the coding process, there were different, I'm not sure how detailed you want, but things like GitHub repositories and things like that were used kind of to share code amongst the Commonwealth and Northeastern. But yes, it's a cloud model that both agents were developed in.
Okay, and is this chatbot and agent scalable to municipalities in Massachusetts? And did you create this entirely, or did you use some existing products or LLMs?
I love that question, actually, because it's a very new initiative for us so in Massachusetts, a little bit different, where the executive agencies we procure off of a different statute than the local municipalities. So this Abe was really envisioned as a resource for the executive agencies, which are bound by different things like supplier diversity laws and environmental preferable products and things that munis don't necessarily are required to follow, and also have a slightly different evaluation scheme. That being said, municipalities are still about 50% of our spend on statewide contracts. So as kind of a second phase, within really the last couple of months, it's turned into, well, what could we do to offer a chatbot resource to municipalities that, again, we know are such a large percentage of our statewide contract users. And we've recently been teaming up with City of Boston, who I know David Fields also pointed out in his presentation, has been a huge collaborator with Northeastern and set up what they lovingly refer to as BidBot. So their BidBot does in fact go and respond to their statute and answers their statute questions, but we are in the process right now of sharing some of our contract user guides and other things to add to their knowledge base. And we're also looking in to a grant program to basically, because you pay for a lot of these AI agents based on usage. So the more users you have, the higher the bill. So somebody's got to foot the bill if we put it out to all municipalities. And Massachusetts does have some great options in terms of grants of, hey, we built this one technology, but we really want to scale it to the rest of the state. How can we do that? So the Inspector General is the oversight agency for the municipalities, similar to OSD is the oversight procurement agency for the executive branch. So we're working closely with City of Boston and the Inspector General and a grants program to hopefully in the next, in 2026, eventually roll out to the entire state, not just to the executive.
And could you please just go over the process of how you trained staff to use the bot?
Yes, again, so I feel like that is one of the more challenging items, honestly, is just even reminding people that the bot is there and prompting people to think of when is a good time to use it. So we did generate a sheet of, kind of 10 best ways or 10 different questions that are the, best ways to use the bot and to ask it questions. Recently, have been seeing City of Boston's bid bot. They actually had already like 3 different prompt options. So we have a sheet that says, hey, you could use this prompt, or you could use this one. Their bid bot, you can actually click on a prompt and to try to do it. So constantly refining, constantly, trying to improve just the ease at which people are able to use the agent and to find the agent and to think of using the agent. And again, I think that comes with just having trust in the agent and having our own team who is typically fielding these questions, seeing that the bot is going to give the same answer and a trusted answer, just as if they were providing that advice.
Great. And do you have a formal review, audit, or model update governance process to prevent drift, bias, or misalignment with evolving procurement regulations?
Yeah, so every week I get a log of what all the questions are that have been asked for the agent and what all the answers are. And within the agent itself, so if you were to say, ask Abe, how do I buy this pencil? And it came back to you and said, like, we don't know what pencils are. You could click thumbs down and you could actually like tag that as this is a misunderstanding, the bot is confused, whatever. So that information would come back, or it hallucinated, it thought I wanted, a rocket pencil or whatever happened. So we do go through those logs every week to make sure that we are seeing how the bot is answering and that it's consistently answering the way we want it to.
Okay. And how do you ensure accuracy in the responses? Is the agent only permitted to provide preset answers, or does it generate its own answers, which potentially might lead to non-approved responses?
Right. No, of course. And it is generative. It is learning as it goes. So every time it answers, it's not going to be the exact same formulaic answer. But the more you use it and the more that you are feeding it accurate answers, the better it does. So before, you deploy it to whoever it is, you have oversight, or whoever it is you want to provide this resource to, we did spend a lot of time training it internally again and again to make sure. And like I said, we went to each of the contract managers and said, what are those, 10 to 15 most common questions? And we want to keep testing it and asking it a similar question in different ways to make sure that it's still coming up with an answer that's helpful and that's accurate. So I do think, is there still room for some error here and there? Absolutely. Is there probably greater room for error than somebody flipping through the best value 120-page handbook and trying to find it on their own? I think your odds are much better working with the chatbot that's been trained to address these things for sure.
Okay, and if an agency wanted to use ChatGPT to develop a procurement chatbot or contract review assistant, what technical security and data privacy requirements would need to be in place?
So again, I think once you wander into the world of any sort of third-party AI agents, Massachusetts for sure, we have our own AI generative terms that we make sure that any of these vendors would agree to, and that includes things guaranteeing from free from bias, from hallucinations, that and obviously vendors are very squeamish to sign on that dotted line and say that they guarantee that it's going to happen. But we do also want to make sure that anything like that is on their end has a human in the mix or a human at the helm that is constantly looking for those. As far as the cybersecurity requirements, this is something, again, I would encourage you to work with your own technology secretariat or tech team to make sure that you can house it in your own production environment that lives solely in within the Commonwealth, and also making sure that whatever information you are feeding to it is, again, not being used to then train that third-party model. So that would be a huge consideration. And again, I would extremely caution agencies to look for any regulated data that you might have numerous agreements with, because the last thing we want is for the chatbot to be spitting out people's home addresses or child custody agreements or anything like that. So this is, I think, a huge benefit in terms of having your own internally developed agent as opposed to going to the third-party agent. Not to say that there's not utility in both. I think that, with the pace these agents are moving, I think we're seeing a lot of great resources out there, but I am still seeing, these contract challenges, and again, particularly around safeguarding regulated data that still make having this internal option a great option to have.
Okay, and I have a question here for both of you. What are some tips for engaging universities and academic organizations? How did your partnership get started?
May I take this one?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'll let you field that one, David.
Before I answer that one, the one thing I was just going to add on to what Jen was just sharing, it's not always clear when you're looking at the different LLMs whether or not it's training on your data. So ChatGPT was referenced. I think the language they use is help us improve the model for everyone. So it doesn't even use any of that vernacular. It just kind of phrases it a little differently. So you just need to kind of really dig in to make sure that whether you're using it for personal use or for procurement. But in terms of the partnership, this was actually a project called Innovate MA, and it came out of the governor's office, and it was an initiative that was initially brokered between our provost and Governor Healy, where there was really a push to see how generative AI could help improve the way that the Commonwealth was serving the residents. And so we put a call out to the different secretariats. We got maybe 24 or so different proposals, and across all different agencies. And we looked at those for a few different reasons. One was we wanted to ensure that generative AI was going to be a useful solution. So for instance, we got some transportation challenges where, if you really boiled it down, it was a human capacity issue. They needed more drivers to move more buses around different points. It wasn't necessarily a technology solution. We needed to make sure that we had senior leadership that was bought in and was going to support the project. And that came in the form of kind of two different people. We needed someone who was really a business owner, somebody who understood the use case that we were solving for and the nuances of that, as well as someone that was a technologist. So it might have been the CIO of the Secretariat or their designee. But at the end of the day, as Jen was saying, we build in a pre-production environment, we just roll it into the production environment, but it's living on the state servers. And so somebody needs to kind of take the reins and own that once we hand the tool off. And so it was important that we had, commitment from senior leadership that we would have access to those 2 points of contact on the partner team to be able to see the project through. And then the last one was just time. The project needed to be sized right that we could solve and build a tool within 6 months. So, you could have some moonshots that might take 3 years. We just didn't have that runway. So we needed to make sure that we were able to really build and turn something around within the course of 6 months, which, as I've come to learn, is crazy fast compared to industry standards. But we just were able to make that work given the close collaboration. We did agile sprints, so we meet with our agency partners every week. There's a weekly report out in terms of what gains have been made, and so we really do stick to a build calendar and a product cycle, a development cycle that allows for us to ensure that we can move from truly defining the problem and ensuring that as we peel back the layers of the onion and get at the root causes of the challenge. I'll admit we had not OSD, but other agencies, sort of say, we want you to build X. And then we'd go out and we'd do, deeper research and we'd start interviewing residents, and the residents would say out of the gate, well, we don't want X. We're not going to use X. In one case, we had 94% of the population say they didn't want it. So the last thing we wanted to do was build something that wasn't going to have uptake and make a real mark in the work that we were doing. So we're able to work with agencies to move from kind of defining the problem all the way through to the point of handoff with the tool, the playbook, the implementation guide, all of the details within that time frame. And as Jen's anecdote highlights, I mean, it's all built in open source. Our aim is really to improve government nationwide and procurement teams, in this case, nationwide. So.
Okay, and then we have a question here. If other universities want to build something similar, could we reach out for additional information or guidance? And I'll note that there will be resources that we'll be sending out, including the presentation slides after this webinar, but if either David or Jennifer, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, and we have seen other universities, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has worked with other universities on a competitive bid process. We do find that so far Northeastern is still very unique in the sense that they offer, again, students full-time, which depending on the project we've found to be really just invaluable. So we are looking into, it's been a little bit of a longer project for us because it would be a new statewide contract, but there is talk of standing up a statewide contract that would be specifically for hiring students across the Commonwealth in different capacities to work on building these types of tools. But again, a lot of the times agencies really do want a dedicated full-time team to be able to collaborate with. And in that sense, Northeastern has proved to be unique.
Yeah, I think that element of the talent pipeline is so critical. Building the tools, being able to make huge impact in terms of the business, but then being able to have this opportunity to hire someone on that you've worked with full time over the course of 6 months it's just a great training ground, and you really know who you're hiring at this point. I've got to put a shout out to AWS. That's the vendor that the Commonwealth uses. They were great partners in terms of giving us access to solution architects as we may need them. The tool stack changes so rapidly. So the students would start building, and 3 months in, Bedrock would get a change, or the S3 buckets would look a little different, or as they were building, they needed to be able to be nimble and agile, and so it has all worked out really well.
Okay, and we have some questions here regarding costs. 3 different questions. One, just the estimate of the total initial cost for 1L, another about annual costs, and then just the ballpark of the costs for overall development.
Yeah, so the cost for Northeastern are, you get the 2 full-time students per semester, which they're longer semesters, so it's really more like a 5-6 month. But that's for that piece itself, it's about $50,000 a semester. And then the cost to maintain the environments, again, all of that, those are AWS accounts that are based on usage. So for each of the tools, I would say they run about $12,000 annually, so about $24,000 total, and that's at really a high end of usage. They're not quite up to that high end yet, so really more like 18 right now. But that's what you can estimate.
Okay, and is a live demo of each chatbot available?
So we could. I didn't want to have to do that during the presentation just because it would require me to log into the Massachusetts environment and authenticate and do all of that, which is why we tried to kind of show you, snippets of the demo in the video. But we could certainly, if anybody was interested, take it offline and show you the capabilities at another time in a live demo.
Great. And then I have another question here for David. Are there other examples of procurement-related projects that Innovate US has worked on with states or explored?
In the procurement lane, these are the two big ones. BidBot, so Santi Garces, who is the CIO for Boston, is also a fellow in the center, and so he has been a good partner. And so we've um, kind of been close to that project as well. But in the procurement space, these are the two that we've developed over. The program's only 24 months old at this point, so it's a fairly new initiative.
Great. Okay. And then how agile is the agent for updates? For example, if a contract is amended, replaced by a new solicitation, etc., does the agent take on those changes immediately after that information is updated?
So yeah, so for that is the nice thing about kind of both agents. So for Abe, the knowledge base, we are constantly, almost weekly, updating the contract user guides, whether it's just vendor contact information or new pricing catalogs or whatever it is. So there is a separate SharePoint site that both our internal IT team uses. So it essentially is the last step before it goes to be published, and both our marketing team and our IT team would see those finalized user guides on a weekly basis and upload those to the Knowledge Abe base. So Abe's knowledge base is getting updated on a weekly basis at the same time as all of our documents are getting updated online. For 1L, again, it has the two knowledge bases. So we do have that static one that has the IT terms and conditions and the standard contract form instructions and our 27 information security policies. And these are things that if we do update or revise, they take, I think the last IT terms and conditions took us about a year to revise. So it's not something that is getting updated all that often, which is why it's part of that static knowledge base. The dynamic knowledge base is really where you can then flip it to say, no, I want to look at this vendor proposal against this contract, and you upload a different RFR or RFQ. And so you're able to change out whatever contracts you want to review against very easily. And that's just built into the system.
Okay. And how long did development and training the agents take? How long did it take to train the agents?
It takes a long time, and honestly, you're not just done at any point in time, right? It's kind of an ongoing process because we do want to make sure that anytime you add new information to the knowledge base, that it still understands what that new information is. So again, we're still checking those weekly logs to make sure that the questions that it's answering make sense to us, the answers it's actually providing out. And the same with 1L, we're constantly looking for little items to tweak, hey, could it suggest language for this, or could it make sure to always find this keyword, those types of things. So I would say, the initial process was, at least 6 months or so, but it is an ongoing training and not something that you want to just not, stop and not pay attention to again.
Okay, and then I have one final question here. What performance metrics did you use for Abe? What indicates success?
Yeah, so I mean, right now, the biggest indication of success, honestly, is right now that all of our internal people feel like that Abe is constantly putting out the answers that we want. We've had kind of some different initiatives within our agency as well, since we've been actually moving all of our contract user guides into an HTML space as opposed to being PDFs. And we've been updating our best value handbook, which again is that, rather lengthy guide to the regulation. So all of those are big adjustments that we've been now retraining internally with our agency. That being said, the goal is now to disperse it at the city of Boston at the same time, so that this would go to the entire state, as opposed to try to segment, only you can use this and only you have access to this. I would say if we are getting people regularly, just easily utilizing the contracts, cutting down on the amount of time that our help desk is getting the same types of questions, which we have seen a great reduction in that. And any time that reduces the amount of questions that even the attorney team is getting to help negotiate or to come with those different questions is a great metric for us.
All right, well, that concludes today's presentation. I want to again thank our presenters, David Fields and Jennifer Lyons, for the very valuable information you shared today and for working with us here at NASPO to bring it to you. Thank you all for attending this webinar today. You will all receive a follow-up email containing today's slides and materials. Remember, this webinar qualifies as one contact hour for your continuing education credits. To receive your certificate, simply fill out the survey in your browser window once you've exited the webinar. The webinar has been recorded and will be available for viewing on the NASPO YouTube page in the coming days. Questions entered into the chat and Q&A boxes have been saved, and we will try to follow up via email for any ones not addressed during the presentation. Join us next Thursday, February 26th, for the final webinar in the Cronin Webinar Series, Beyond the Internship, Building Purpose, Passion, and Public Service. To register and see other upcoming events, go to naspo.org. Thanks again to our wonderful presenters, and thank you to our guests. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.